Hi, I'm Dave Hartis, Category Manager for ICT at Bloom Procurement Services, and today I'm going to be joined by Steve, who's a Managing Consultant at IMD Group, for the first of a three-part discussion which will focus towards digital transformation and how IMD Group can take you on the journey to digital business maturity. IMD Group are a fully accredited member of the fastest growing e-marketplace in the UK. Of course, I'm talking about the Bloom Marketplace, and they specialise in an extensive range of ICT consultative services, including key areas such as P3M and project controls, digital analytics, data analytics, learning and development, cyber information and security, and what we're going to be talking about today, digital transformation. It's fair to say that the public sector is facing a uniquely challenging time, with significant year-on-year budget costs coupled with the COVID-19 crisis. A real drive for change and new ways of working is taking place. It's within the sphere of digital transformation and the utilisation of new and emerging technologies, the public sector can develop efficiency gains and transform processes that were once manual to digital and unlock that significant cost saving that everybody's looking to achieve. Day and taking time out of your day to talk to us about digital transformation. Really appreciate it. For those who are not that familiar with IMD Group, could you tell us about your role in the organisation, please?
Sure. Firstly, thanks for inviting me on, Dave. Really pleased to be here and give a bit of an overview of what we do and how we go about it. So in terms of IMD, we're based in Bristol and London. We are, business management services consultancy, so we provide a range of services to secure and public sector, including full digital transformation, which is supported through your traditional P3M and project controls, data analytics, procurement, commercial, and also we have a learning and development sector, which is kind of amplified through our in-house training capabilities. So we're really able to construct and repackage training to suit the needs of our clients. Really, to make sure that each client is getting exactly what they need, rather than something that's been used before and it's not been tailored at all.
Excellent. So it really sounds like a one-stop shop approach, but with a much more bespoke, tailored package to suit the client's requirements, rather than sort of taking it off the conveyor belt, as it were, and having a similar approach for everybody.
Yeah, very much so. And I think some of those aspects really support from the entry point into helping the client along the journey through to exit, and ensuring that there's a sustainable mindset that actually, once we are gone, we've already done the elements of skills transfer to enable the client to continue the good work and get to where they need to be, bringing much more of the skills and capabilities they require back in-house.
Excellent, thank you. As I mentioned in the introduction to today's session, this is the first of three parts, and what we talked about earlier is that public sector organisations are really facing extraordinary budget pressures. And as a result, the public sector is starting to be forced to look to new ways to drive efficiencies and explore cost-saving opportunities as well. And some of those cost-saving opportunities are presented through reimagination of processes and the digitalisation of services. Steve, can you tell us, is this something that you see quite a lot of through your customer base in terms of what your opinion is of that real sort of reimagination of processes and trying to leverage technology to gain efficiencies and drive costs for organisations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we talk about, the origins of where transformation might come from, there can be many different kind of routes to that, whether or not it's a compliancy transformation and something that, an organization just has to do and make it work, through to perhaps a situation where they've got an emergent transformation program where they've got numerous different kind of strategies and they're kind of trying to integrate them into one holistic overarching view to gain exactly those efficiencies that you speak of. A lot of these things need to be sponsored at the highest level to ensure that actually you see in that end-to-end process and you can really gain the buy-in and ensure that actually what you're doing really counts. It's the right transformation change that you're trying to implement. So in terms of the efficiencies, let's say okay, digital transformation. Well, surely one of the key things that's enabled, recognizing where we are over the past few months, communication, right? So digital transformation and implementation of IT systems and services and being online can only help with that wider reach of your client basis, but also your users and your customers. So if we're particularly talking about government organisations, then clearly as well as the in-house users, it also needs to support those at the other end that are picking up these items and wanting to get involved. Part of that, I think, is full integration of the systems that are being used. So actually, when perhaps you've got numerous legacy systems, and actually you need these to become more part of an overall integrated system, such that let's talk about data. So it's only used once. You've got a pool of data. Everything's feeding into the same point, such that perhaps when you get to the end of your transformation journey, you've got much more of a live data set, and that could only help managers and business users to make those informed decisions that they need to. So really what we're talking about is reducing that time between asking the question and getting the answer. And I think thirdly, something that's perhaps is overlooked in occasion is okay, what can we stop doing? How can we gain efficiency through cutting the old ways of working and making sure that these legacy ties are kind of put to bed and retired, rather than just sort of getting stuck into that the opposite of efficiency by continuing two processes, two systems, and so on. So I think those are probably the three key efficiencies that that OddStrike has been increased through digital transformation.
And I think just to sort of echo what you've said, I think it's critical as well to take people on the journey of transformation. And you're absolutely right. I think one of the worst scenarios can be that the legacy system continues throughout whilst you're still rolling forward with this new system that's being developed through that journey of digital transformation. Thanks, Steve. That was really insightful. I just wanted to we're going to put you on the spot a little bit and talk about how do you think successful transformation projects can deliver efficiencies for the public sector?
So really, I think that success is about having a simple message. It's about having a simple, compelling and consistent message. And so what I'm talking about there is understanding what your strategy is, what is the vision, and allowing that to be fed throughout the entire organization. It's sponsored by the top, but also right at the lowest levels as well. So every team member or even the user base is involved with that. They understand it and actually it can be flowed through appropriately. All too often, the communication channels aren't controlled, and so if you don't control those communication channels, the message will just end up likely being incoherent and inconsistent. So it's much more important that you have a really good stakeholder and communication strategy to push these elements through and make sure that the message is getting to where it needs to get to, but also it says the right thing. And as I say, that will only help with buy-in across the entirety of the organisation. I think the second point is around being benefits driven. If you've got benefits, it starts to edge along that logic of you know where you want to get to through the vision and strategy. You've got the benefits of what you want to achieve by the end of that, and actually the benefits are measurable, so you can track the progress and the success, which is clearly something again that you need to communicate to ensure that you are taking the entire team and everyone with you along that journey. And then I think it's just important to ensure that you do communicate that progress. You know, you celebrate successes. You know, you ensure that when you know there's opportune moments, you're looking back. You know, these things aren't going to be easy. They're difficult. They are enduring. You know, for real transformation, we're talking years. So clearly, people will come and go, and you just need to make sure you've got that retention of a consistent message and the successes that you're achieving along the way.
Excellent. And I'm just thinking in terms of barriers. I think you've hit on some real salient points there, but from your experience, why do you think some organisations are really resistant to these transformation pieces of work as you're working through that transformation journey? What causes the biggest barriers, do you feel, from your perspective?
So I think that some of this is probably due to perhaps not fully understanding or identifying the skills that are needed. So we talk about people aspects there, but you know, managers and kind of you know, execs will often know the kind of the priorities of exactly what they need to do at the highest levels. But actually, when you start to delve into, okay, well, what skill sets do we really need to be able to make that happen, and when do we need it? These are the kind of things that, you know, need to be really well understood. And in terms of having that through life view of what that actually means, you know, how will an organization complement that skill set? How will they, you know, acquire it? And so it's really that people strategy that needs to be developed at an early stage to understand where these transfer points are going to be critical to ensure that you do have that sustainable change. Because, you know, unless you're on the gas on these programs all the time, it's all too easy to, you know, lose pace and start to slip, and it's near impossible to regain time with this kind of thing, because often, you know, there is a period of time where you're migrating or transitioning, where you're actually trying to double up as, you know, the business as usual, while still, you know, trying to transform your organization to these new ways of working. So it's really critical you're cognizant of those changes that are required and what needs to be done. I think another barrier that I've often witnessed is kind of siloed functions, and within that siloed behaviours. So you know, we could you know, it's different for different organisations, but you're always going to have enabling functions and different heads of command, etc., that are going to do things slightly differently. And for me, you know, again, it falls back to communication, because if there isn't that collaboration effort and you're not united by that single vision and how it's intended to get there, then actually that at best just causes delay, and at worst actively can cause conflict and friction and tension, and that really just guides away from achieving those efficiencies that you set out to do. And I think that if you're not careful, whilst that's an underlying barrier and cause, you know, it could overshine actually the good work that's been done to date. So I think that's one part of it. And I guess to follow on from that is actually the general people issues and the cultural changes that are needed to make that happen. Everyone has to embrace this change. Everyone has to, you know, be bought into it. And I keep saying that because it's the underlying factor around all of these things. You know, whether you're talking about a small change, perhaps you're just changing some you know, let's say some P3M tool sets for your business units, all the way through to a full site migration, or, you know, worldwide migration of IT services, and the way that users connect to those. You know, the principles are the same. You need to make sure that everyone's bought into it.
Excellent. And without giving too much of the, let's say, the IMD secret sauce away, from your perspective, how do you feel an organisation can mitigate those kind of risks that we've just talked around change management, changing culture, and things like that? What do you see as being those key tools to kind of mitigate the risk of failure, I suppose?
Yeah, in IMD we have a transformation approach and a framework that sits over the top of that as well. And I reflected on this earlier. So we do take a tailored approach, not one size doesn't fit all. And there's many different factors and kind of assessments that would have to go to inform, how we'd go about this for one organisation's journey. But again, in principle, the key things I think are having the business insights that you need with the supporting strategy. So to achieve that, you really need the deep-rooted domain experience to be able to tease out a lot of the perhaps the problems and actually what the guiding vision is. Understanding what your starting position is and where you're trying to get to, and by that I mean really getting to grips with what your operating models are, and ensuring then they're not just surface deep. So really getting into the networks around your organization, what the true networks are, and how you really operate. That's the only way that you're going to be able to identify the current problems, concerns, and perhaps the things that you want to definitely be leaving behind. And if you can do that as soon as possible, those quick wins, then that's only got to be a good thing. Processes and systems, so we need to ensure that when you are defining any new process, that it is cognizant of an entire organization, and really where you've got these interaction points. It's perhaps not just thinking about, okay, this is where we are today, and this is how it's going to work. Not even perhaps a year down the road when you've perhaps got the system that you want in place. It's actually, is it future-proofed? How does that align to your overall vision? And then does it enable you with ease and effectiveness and efficiency to get to there at a later date? Often, with a transformation, you won't have all the answers defined at the earliest stage. So again, it is a journey that you need to adapt to and be able to change effectively as you define these new requirements, perhaps. The other point is being benefits driven, all about benefits. Again, I've mentioned this. I think that again, I'll say if you don't know what your benefits are, you don't know where you're going, and you will not be able to measure it appropriately. Governance and risk. Okay, so depending on the size of the organization and the change in hand, I think it's really important whether you define it as a program management office or whether it's a smaller, perhaps project controls team. That is the team that's going to enable the real data analysis that you need to understand what's working and what's not working, and perhaps how to put plans in place to, let's call it get back to green. Make sure you get back on track and your variance isn't too large one way or the other. Those are the thoughts that managers need to be having, and they need to be informed by the data as well as the conventional wisdom that they've got through the experience, etc. So the more that you're able to understand what data you've got available to you, and it's the right data to use to inform your decisions, the better. Change management, I've got the last two principles here. So change management is, again, just making sure you've got that really tailorable solution to suit the approach you're taking. Obviously, there's an overarching process that needs to be in place, but you need to know where and when you can kind of diverge away from that. Finally, probably the most important aspect is around your people and the innovation within. So it's really understanding that your people are probably the ones that are best placed to understand what's working, how your organization fits together, the networks they hold, and really giving them the confidence to fail, to test new things out, and to really just be innovative, because that's where the key points I think are really going to come from for any organization to be able to get real real change from any transformation program.
Thanks, Steve. That's really insightful. And from my perspective as a techie, if you like, it's really refreshing to hear you kind of referencing both the technology side and the people aspect as well. And I think you're absolutely right. I think any change or transformation, the people have got to be at the heart of whatever's happening from an organisation level. So thanks for that. The last thing I really wanted to touch on, which is very much after you guys have been picked up tools and kind of left site. From your perspective, what do you think an organisation can do to ensure that long-term success way beyond the change and when the sort of the achievement of the digital business maturity is completed? From your perspective, and I think I can probably glean from the discussion that we've had today what the answer is going to be, but thinking beyond the project and sort of going into that transition to the new norm, if you like, what do you think an organisation can do to ensure that long-term success?
Being putting people first, fantastically ensuring that every individual in the team is supported in any kind of upskilling that's required, or indeed any kind of experience, skills, and knowledge transfer that needs to happen. So I think that it's not definable by a clear exit situation. I think we're as a consultancy firm, we're very much part of that ethos that we're always there to continue the support as needed, and ensure that if it's perhaps a further bespoke training course which is required to support that, we're more than happy to drop back in and be available. I think it's part of having a relationship. Any kind of clients that we work with, we truly do ensure that we have long-lasting and kind of meaningful engagements to ensure that ultimately the client gets to where they need to be, and where they want to get to. That way that we talk about perhaps in some cases the transformation can slip back on itself, as long as we're there, we're available and ready to help as and when needed, then that's got to be the good thing, really.
Excellent, thank you. And I guess that comes back to the point we made at the beginning of today's discussion, is about having all of those strands or pillars of work available, or expertise at IMD Group as well, really being able to come in at different points and throughout the project delivery and beyond as well.
Absolutely, it's all about sustainable change. That's what we're there to deliver and help deliver.
Thanks, Steve. I want to be respectful of your time today, and I really appreciate you taking time to talk to us about this. And as I did mention earlier, this is the first of 3 videos that we'll be working on with Steve and the team over at IMD Group. So keep checking back on our social media channels on LinkedIn, on Twitter, to keep an eye on those next 2 parts of the series. If anybody does have any questions in the meantime, or you require any more information about what we've been covering today, please feel free to email hello@bloom.services, or alternatively, you can message me directly on LinkedIn, or you can message Bloom Procurement Services on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.